Oh.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 138th, even though it's technically the 137th episode. There was a mix-up this morning with the draft. We were recording in advance.
Did we say 138 on that
I
one?
did. That's completely my fault, 100%. I'm not in the game anymore, you know? I see
Why
retirement.
didn't you, just hold that one back a little bit?
I don't know. I got cocky. I thought, I can count ahead and do this.
Doing it before... Well, no, if you just released it later today after we did this.
I
know you want to get it before Comic-Con.
Well, I didn't want to clog the stream, though, too, right? Because I didn't want to put out this podcast that we're doing right now and then put out another one right away. Because tomorrow we got DC panel, Marvel panel. So I don't want to clog the channel too much, you know. So, if this is your first podcast, terrible introduction. But I am the very worried Travis Snell. I'll say that.
I am the Adam Hardcaster, Dylan Moss.
So this was originally planned just to be a Marvel Netflix Defenders podcast, and it's going to be eventually. So what happens is the panel's like, as we're recording this live, it's happening now. So at one point in the cast, if you're listening to this, it won't matter to you. If you're watching with us live right now, we'll keep the stream going, but we'll just pause for a second if trailers drop, and we'll watch them. We'll come right back. But originally it was gonna be, we'll wait till the panel, and then we'll do the cast and whatnot. But there's a lot of stuff that happened today that is a little strange. And I want to start with, because we haven't talked about this at all.
Doctor Strange 2, confirmed.
Yeah, that's it. Good night, folks.
Coming in September.
Wow, that's a good turnover from Marvel. Wow, they must have done a Lord of the Rings, shot them back to back, didn't even tell us. So, let's take a little trip down memory lane. So it was about, I think, beginning of this year when we had that official word that Ben Affleck dropped out of just the directing of the Batman. I remember you, because you were on Dynamic Duo with me and Kyle, because it was a big subject and we wanted to, as many people talk about, and we had a good conversation about, what it could mean, yada, yada, yada. And there were some rumors that Ben Affleck may drop out as Batman, but they were small. It was just, a possibility. And then I felt like, not only did the Batman drama, but I felt like a lot of the DC drama went away for quite a while. I felt like there was always, directors leaving, this is happening, but I think
some of that got blinded by the fact that Wonder Woman wasn't a bad movie. Yeah. So people kind of just, their thoughts of DC were more positive after that as well.
True. So I feel like, let's say that came out in June, so I'd say, let's go from April to now to today. I felt like there wasn't much drama. I felt like every week on the cast, we were talking about this person joined, this person dropped out. And now, and I'll read the official report I throw it to you because I don't want to mix up the words or anything like that. Today it came now, this is the headline, Hollywood Reporter, which is with Variety is the two big news breakers and movie-wise. So the headline was Ben Affleck's future as Batman in doubt as Warner Brothers plots franchise. That sounds so evil. Let's see, where is it exactly? I want to find the exact quote.
So it's still not a confirmation though?
It's not...
But it's pretty sure.
Warner Brothers didn't say a statement. They apparently the president of Warner Brothers said something we love Ben and we want to have him as Batman as long as possible. Which to me that does not feel like
he said that today.
Yeah, today. And then Warner Brothers as the company didn't say anything, and Ben Affleck's rep have refused to comment. So let's see, where the fuck? Why didn't I look at this before, you guys?
You guys, that's your fault, man.
I'm talking to the fans,
Your interns.
Yeah, the interns.
The intern's fault.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna get give me your initial thoughts on this. Well, I'll find the exact quote of what they said, the article. But give me your just initial thoughts on this, and then I'll pose you a couple questions. But like I said, there hadn't been that much drama in a while, and I felt like we were kind of getting in the good graces of Wonder Woman was good, no drama. I felt like we were past that point of the rocky road,
Well, that's the thing, and it's. We'll talk about it after, but, that's not the only thing that came out today of, DC getting a bit rocky. So it's just and, Wonder Woman, I thought it was good, but it didn't blow me away as much as everyone else. So I wasn't just, switch sides of bandwagon. I'm just major DC hype. So I was already kind of still a little rocky on it. Now it's I didn't even love Ben Affleck as Batman, but the fact that this is I guess it's not totally confirmed yet, but it's just. No. It's just classic DC at this point, People just, I really want to know what goes on in those meetings, man, and behind the scenes, and why the studio keeps pushing people away. It seems that people that could work perfectly.
Well, I think with him, it's kind of a crescendo of I think he had a big resurgence a couple of years ago, and I think this thing of when BVS came out, that movie got trashed a lot, and you're a part of that. And I think it's maybe of... And he's had some personal issues in his life. I'm not going to talk about that, but putting those aside, I think it's maybe this... I just wonder if it's a... Do you think it's a creative thing of he wants to do things a certain way? Like, obviously, he was supposed to direct this movie at one point. He's not directing it.
Yeah.
Last week, he was talking about the director said that the script that was written for Batman, he scrapped it and he's doing his own, which he should. He's directing it, so it makes sense. Do you think it's a creative thing, or do you think it's just I'm maybe tired of, like the sad Affleck memes? Like, do you think he can still go to work when everyone's talking about, like, man, DC's so bad, like, oh, Batman, and especially it's strange because, like, BVS, he doesn't really get much of that. It's just more the movie as a whole. But what do you think? It's more like a creative thing, or do you think it's more of a morale thing? I guess like that's the only thing I can.
I mean, realistically, it's got to be a bit of both. Like because his movie came out. What is it called? Live by Night? What was that called? That was his movie, right?
Live by Night.
It didn't do so well.
And that's his first movie that's never done well. Other ones have been like Academy Award nominations, well reviewed. So,
a combination with that, and obviously BVS and Suicide Squad did really well numbers wise, but maybe critically and the comic book fans weren't so happy with it. So obviously there's that morale aspect, but I feel like the biggest component has got to be some, creative aspect of it. I don't know. I mean, none of us really do know what route he wanted to take Batman, and obviously after the Dark Knight trilogy, you got to do something special. You got to do
drop the ball.
You got to do something different, right? And so he probably had some pretty good ideas, but maybe they were just a bit too out there for the studio, and maybe it didn't fit the vision of what they wanted to do with their cinematic universe. I think though the biggest thing has got to be his individual creative vision with what he had with it, and they wouldn't allow him to do that.
Yeah, because
that's what I would say.
I do think there's a part of I think playing Batman's probably fun and probably a great job, but it's that thing I do worry of not only morale, but you were talking about creative control of if he's not really in it anymore, and that's I kind of get that vibe that it's just like he signed onto it, they had this idea, and that's just the thing. No one talks about this, but I think people said that there was reports that the reviews caught him off guard for BVS. So there's a part of me that thinks maybe the BVS and the Suicide Squad, the route they're heading was the route that he believed in. He could have started sign on.
Yeah.
Obviously people believed in BVS. You have Zack Snyder, and I feel like you have Joss Whedon who's kind of doing Justice League now, and I felt like maybe from when he signed on to what they want to do now, it's completely different. I finally found the quote after much looking. So THR, like I said, reputable source, they said, a source close to the production of Warner Brothers. It's a very small quote, but then they had a huge article looking at the pros and cons, but it said, the studio's looking at options to usher Ben Affleck's Batman out in a film, and to do it kind of graciously and gradually, and I don't think gradually as far as over time, but I think nothing that's Justice League starts and he dies, something that would feel natural to the story. So I want to pose you these 3 questions.
3, okay.
So you're sitting. Well, let's just play for fun, because who knows? Tomorrow they could come out and he could be like, "This is complete bullshit. I'm in this for the long haul."
I'm signed on for 10 movies,
and I hope that happens because I really really like Ben Affleck. I'd like to see more of him. But let's say I feel like before I ask you these questions, I gotta say some things to fans. I feel like you gotta prepare yourself for the worst, because as someone that runs the Twitter, I talk to other people that run geek Twitter accounts and my own of just when there was rumors of him dropping out as a director, so many people they're these people are lying, they're just trying to get clicks, this is complete fabrication. And Ben and the company said, "Oh, it's gonna happen." And Ben Affleck multiple times said, "I'm directing and I'm working on it." And then one week it was just gone. So for me, anybody that's "Oh, this is just a rumor," it is. But this is exactly how the last thing happened, where we heard buzz about it, and then one day it's just I'm out. And I never believed. The first time I never believed. I'm no one's gonna drop out directing the Batman. That's your golden ticket. And now it's when we talked about it a long time ago, I said I wouldn't be surprised if it happened, and I do think after Justice League it could. So once again, prepare yourself and don't use this of "Oh, it's just a rumor." Look at what's happened. There's 3 ways that for me I'm gonna ask you, what would you prefer? So let's say done. It comes out. There's one, just the straight recast of, they just recast a new guy, they don't mention it. It's just new Batman, and let's just say it's Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf's your Batman, let's move forward.
Shy surprise.
The Shy surprise. 2, a story-driven recast of, we've talked about this before, there's a thing called Flashpoint in DC. If it's something where Flash is going between worlds and universe, he comes back and all of a sudden Batman looks like a different guy, it's still Batman. So that's a story-driven one of oh, you look different, or it's a Bruce from a parallel universe, right? One that doesn't just murder people. Or 3, does he do like classic comic storylines that I've had in the past? Is it a passing down to like Robin, who's Dick Grayson, or there's other characters like Azrael? In your mind, out of those three, unless you have a fourth, but out of those three, is there something that what would you prefer to see if they say Justice League he's done?
Personally, I don't like, recasting a character with like a new actor and everyone pretending like there's no big deal there. Like it's always seemed weird to me. Like it's okay with like smaller characters. Like what is the character for an Iron Man?
War Machine.
Yeah, War Machine. Like I just noticed that again when I was rewatching it, and at the time he was a very minor character, and he's still like a lower tier character, but that was fine. But I still didn't really like it a lot. And then they even did that in the last Batman, didn't they? What was the character? The female?
They did, yeah, with Rachel Dawes. They recast the love interest.
Yeah. So.
And they did it with Hulk too.
They did it with Hulk.
Yeah. So it's known to happen.
I never saw that Hulk, so it's hard for me
You're going to see it this year when we review it.
Yeah.
We haven't made that announcement yet, but stay tuned.
But even that seems more disconnected, right? Because there wasn't anyone else from the MCU in that movie, right?
Well, that's what people throw out, that like it was so loosely connected, and two, that we're never really getting another Hulk movie.
Wait, so is that Hulk movie, is that technically, like, that storyline is true?
Iron Man has an appearance in that movie.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited to watch this with you this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spoilers, we're going to do Avengers retrospective for related to Infinity War. We've talked about this because, like, you and Ty haven't seen Thor, and I'm like, well, if you guys haven't seen, like, Thor 2, like, I'm like, if we haven't seen it, let's just fucking review it. Yeah. So, like, we're going to do that, so I'm excited to watch that. So yeah, recasting's happened.
Well, yeah, so I think it's been done with like smaller characters, and then Hulk, obviously I don't really have any opinion on that because I haven't actually seen that movie. And so it can work with smaller characters, but I still don't like it. I think, just going to like your second and third question, like you can do it in creative ways. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a huge fan of your second option, just because I feel like that's just like a
cop-out, kind of?
Yeah, like the way I picture it is that they spend like 5 minutes saying like, oh, you look weird, and then it's all hunky-dory after that. And
what if they do something? How about this?
If you want to do that switcheroo, that's fine. But to me, I'm just trying to picture that without it being super cheesy and like really blatant. Like, oh, we got a new Batman.
Okay, what if it's not a weird switcheroo? What if story-wise? What happens if somehow the timelines get mixed and this Batman is just, they cast like a 20-30-year-old and they say this was Ben Affleck's Batman, but he was the younger version. Now he's like kind of like the Cap thing, right? Where he was frozen in time, he came back and he's dealing with stuff. And the good thing is, before you go, I think that could actually work, because there's so much stuff in Batman's world that we've just not been flat out told, like this dead Robin suit. True. It kind of be fun to have this Batman who goes in this world, has no idea what's happened, and that's how we could learn about, like, why is the Joker like a tattooed pincushion, like why is the world like this? And that could kind of be our way in if it's a younger Batman. That's the best thing I could think of.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's pretty good for off the top of your head, or maybe you thought about it today.
No,
like,
I didn't. I just now.
See, like, that's pretty good. And if you can do that in 10 seconds, then I'm sure, a bunch of people, discussing every possibility, they can come up with something that,
I hope,
isn't as blatant or doesn't, like, come across as, like, jarring, I guess.
We're not even going to pay millions, and we're
talking. The third option, though, you're passing down the suit, I think that's a great idea. Yeah. I guess the tricky part is, people want Bruce Wayne, right? So if you pass it down and it's, I don't know any other Batman successor.
Dick Grayson, like Robin, that's one of them,
Yeah, but he's still, like, not Batman.
This is my case too, that people have always talked about, that, Batman needs a Bruce Wayne movie. I don't agree with that 100%. I think it needs to start that way, and my problem is, if, let's say, look at the Avengers right now. Let's say Infinity War, Captain America dies. In the comics, both Falcon and Winter Soldier have been Cap at different times. The movies have been going on for so long that they set that up. That's my problem of why, for me, I want the handing down, but I don't think it works in this context, because we've not met anyone you'd hand down to. So I think it would feel just as weird as the recasting if, like, let's say it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt back as Robin. He comes back and it's just like, Ben Affleck dies, like, you're Batman now. And it's like, we just met this kid. That was a bad example because we met him. Let's say it's Shia LaBeouf again. He's Robin. It's just like the same. I think it's almost the same thing. If, like, I feel like if they introduce a Robin right away, it's gonna feel really blatant of, like, oh, Ben Affleck doesn't want to do this. They're gonna kill him off, and it'll just be like Robin. So, like, I feel
too
like
obvious.
Yeah, that's why I feel like the Flashpoint thing is something I always look at the end of Days of Future Past when they just retcon all the bad movies. They're like, remember when we accidentally killed off Cyclops and Jean Grey? It's like, no, they're fine. Like, they're back. Like, that's why I kind of picture them doing it as something where
the one thing that, like, comes to my mind is, and I'm not totally attached to this Alfred yet, but how weird would that be if they just recast it, or it's like a younger version of him and like Alfred's still like chilling there like, oh hi Bruce,
like the exact same Alfred?
I'm trying to picture that that interaction, and I can't picture one that isn't incredibly weird.
Well, yeah,
like we've barely seen this new Alfred.
Oh yeah,
and I can't even remember what he looks like, to be honest. But
he could be your guide.
He still
though.
exists.
He could be the guide of like filling everybody in. And
this
whatnot.
Is the manor. This is Bruce.
Yeah, why does it look like this? Who's this interior designer? I'm very.
Check out these emails, Bruce.
Yeah, you sent a lot of them. I think you made a good point about recasting. For me, I hate recasting all the time. Even the Nolan trilogy, which I think is a near perfect trilogy, I do hate that. Even though I think I like the girl, like the Maggie Gyllenhaal plays Rachel Dawes more in the second one.
Too, yeah.
You lose some of that connection because she wasn't in the first one, right? So I think when you're talking about, I could get past if it's, an Alfred being recast or someone, like there was rumors like Flash's dad might be recast. I can get past that. Even a hero like a Cyborg or even a Flash. With Batman, it's, I'd say you're 1A with Wonder Woman right now because they're clearly, especially with all this drama, I think they're going to shift her to be their main, like, she's going to be the main thing on posters now because people love her. And I think that's smart. Like, there's no drama there. But, like, if she's your 1A, Batman's your 1B. He was in, like, a big buildup of Squad and BVS. It's not even that it's, like, a Nolan movie where they're standalones. I think for me, it's going to be really strange if, like I said, in a year it's a new Batman. And then we look back at the 3 previous movies. Like, the first Justice League is going to have Ben Affleck's Batman.
Of course,
And it's always going to go...
he's, like... It seems like he's the one bringing them all together.
Yeah.
So.
And it's going to go down as that, and I feel like if he leaves, it doesn't hamper it. If it's a good movie, it's a good movie, but you'll look back on it, I think, in a weird... like, not a negative way, I guess it depends how they do it, but you'll kind of have like an asterisk by it, of like this was his last time, and he didn't really want to do it,
Yeah, and then one thing I just thought about too, like a point you made of if you like recast someone and it's supposed to be the same character with the same experiences, part of it is like the actor and like the journey that actor takes as like playing that role and building up that character and seeing the different emotional moments. So think about like how many movies Iron Man and Captain America have been in now, and just the variety we've seen them in. What if they just like switched one of them out right now? Like, yes, all that character's experience would be the same, but it doesn't feel like it just of the virtue that it's not the same actor. Just because, I guess.
Well, I agree. I've always been against that, and I'll be. You'll hear me now when we review Infinity War. I'll tear them to shreds if they do that thing where it's like, oh, Downey's done, and then it's new Oscar Isaac playing just the same character we've been with. I want with Downey, I want the same thing they did with Han Solo and Force Awakens, where even if Downey's gone for 10 years, like I said, 10 years from now at Comic-Con, they announce, hey, he's been gone for a while, but he's coming back for a movie. People would lose their minds. You lose that the instant you recast. Like, the instant you recast Robert Downey, that's gone, and that's where, for me, I'm very nervous about Infinity War. I don't think they're going to do it, but they could go that route, because they've always talked about, like, oh, it's a new thing, and that's the thing with this, I think it kind of applies. They're in a better situation because they're early on, but unfortunately for them, they're moving through things a lot quicker than Marvel did. Like, they're already at their big team up.
Catch up.
So it feels like it's like, oh, we've been through all this already. And I don't know, it will be strange. I guess I didn't even answer. Like, for me, I think the best thing is I want to do number 2 just because I don't like the straight recast. And I'd be down for the handing down, but I think that needs to be like a couple movies to build that in, right? Because what happens if they cast this guy that we're like, we don't really like him as Robin, and then he's Batman. It's like, oh, well, this kind of sucks, like, we're kind of stuck with him. So, yeah, I'm going to show
I mean, they might do this with Spider-Man down there, but I feel like with, your titans of comic books, like your Batman and your Spider-Man, I don't know if it would work if it's not Bruce Wayne or it's not Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we'll see if they do that with Spider-Man, like, down
I think they're gonna. Yeah, I think that's the plan.
I don't know. I'm really curious to see how that would work. I think just because like the casual people don't know who Miles Morales is or other Spider-Mans.
Yeah. If you look at the minor spoilers, if you look at Homecoming, very first movie, Don Glover's already in there in like a minor role. Yeah. And to me, that's where, like, let's say Spider-Man 6, that's when Tom Holland dies and takes over. I feel like within those 6 movies, his role and his nephew Miles Morales is gonna like increase. So I think when they'll make it in a way when he takes over, it'll feel natural. You know, it'll feel it's like if you just went, hey, we're making. That's why for me, everyone's like, oh, just a Miles Morales movie. To me, the build-up's better because if you can make people love this like little kid and then he becomes Spider-Man, I think that works. And that's where I don't think hey, we got this guy playing Robin, he's gonna grow up to be Batman in like a year, and it's like, well, we're losing out on a lot of journey.
There's no history there.
And I felt like we've already lost a lot of history with BVS. Like, that was my biggest thing. Or I just feel like I'm in this world where it just doesn't make sense. And it's not even the cool comic book way. Comic books do that a lot where they just drop you somewhere. But I felt like BVS does a bad job of, okay, you cannot tell us stuff, but don't make them big plot points then. Like, if I need to know, like, if I need to know why Batman's kind of a psychopath now, I kind of need a bit more, but it can't be like, oh, he's a psychopath now, you know? So, I show this out to you. I don't know if you have anybody, because you're very minuscule as far as your Batman knowledge. So, if you don't have anybody, you haven't.
Hey, I've seen a few movies
You have, but, like,
I read half of that comic that you read me.
I would let you go first, and this is really bad, because usually we have a week to prepare. We just found this out today. But is there any actor in the world that's jumping out at you? Ben Affleck's done next year. They say we're announcing this person. Who is it? Not Shia LaBeouf.
No, not Shia LaBeouf. I'm gonna shout out to our Comic-Con fan cast that we did. I'm gonna say Jake Gyllenhaal.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
He was rumored at one time.
Was he actually? Okay.
In Batman Begins. He was
I
one of the people.
I feel like the look, maybe not perfect, but it's close enough. I don't know what his Batman voice would be like.
That's always the question.
I think he could pull off a Bruce Wayne for sure.
Well, if you look at this Batman, he uses like a voice box now, right? So you don't gotta worry about it.
He wears a big metal suit and
big codpiece,
kryptonite spears and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad choice. Because for me, you could say what the fuck did I just do his name? You could say Jake Gyllenhaal is going to play Salami, and I'm going to be like, that's going to be the best salami he's ever played. So
Sausage Party 2.
You heard it here first, a scoop. Okay, so my two choices, one is a pipe dream, and one which you need to actually see at one point, because you've never seen the original 89 Batman still, haven't you?
Nope.
You should watch it one time. I have it. So my pipe dream is there's this thing called Batman Beyond. I'm not sure if I've told you about this, and if viewers don't know, I'll explain it quickly. It was a animated show. They did the animated Batman TV show back in the 90s, and they had this idea that, of course, the studios said, like, we want a young Batman. Like, how can you make Bruce Wayne kind of cool and hip? So instead of doing that, their idea was it's about Ben Affleck. What the fuck?
Wow.
See, I'm so used to being Batman, I can't get over it. No, it's about Bruce Wayne when he's retired as Batman, and one kid figures out that he was Batman, and he kind of steals the bat suit, and then Batman takes it upon himself to train him. His name was Terry McGinnis, and he trains him. So it's this thing of like Batman's his Alfred, and he's at the desk like in his ear.
Oh, okay.
The suit's like all like, it's kind of Iron Man-y, like it's really hyper tech and whatnot. So my idea would be is Flash does all this weird parallel universe shit. And you know what? People are going to be a little salty about this recast. Lots of people like Ben Affleck. So you got to do something that's going to get them going. Get them really excited. What you do is Flash. This is completely a random pitch. Flash ends up a bit more in the future, you know? Gal Gadot's fine because she doesn't age. Cyborg's a fucking robot, so I'm sure it's fine. It's just half his face. Aquaman's a god, too. It's like, these people don't really need to age. And Flash can just be in, like, 2020, and that's why you can do cool cyberpunk shit. Like, you can make a weird world. He ends up there. He goes to Batcave to talk to Bruce. He goes in Batcave, sees Bruce in his chair. Bruce turns around. It's fucking Michael Keaton. And Michael Keaton, so what they do is, because Michael Keaton was the very first Batman.
Yeah.
So what they do is they say that this is Ben Affleck older, and what you do in the next Batman movie, it's him training this Terry McGinnis guy. Because is it possible? This is not going to happen at all. But I just thought, what would be the best thing to get people hyped? If in the movie theater, that chair turned around and Michael Keaton was playing Batman again, and he didn't have to do the suit, he's just playing like the grizzled old, like, you shouldn't do this, kid.
He's wearing his vulture suit?
Oh god, it brings on set, I'm ready. But like, he's even talked about, whilst filming Homecoming, that anytime he did fight scenes, he just kept saying to himself under the mask, I'm Batman, I'm Batman. And he always talks about how he loves that character. This will never happen, but that's just like my fan choice. My realistic choice, and I don't think it'll happen either because he says he's too old, is John Hamm. I'm not sure if you know who John Hamm is. Yeah. He just looks like Bruce Wayne.
He does, yeah.
He's great at playing charming, but he's great at playing, I could feel the very like broken, damaged guy. And I have said this even before Affleck, and it's kind of like not a hot take. Lots of people have said it before, but there's a reason. It's like the same reason everyone said, oh, Ryan Reynolds should play Deadpool, because it was perfect. Jon Hamm should. I don't think he would because he said something along the lines of, I don't think he wouldn't want to do a bunch of films, I think. But you know what? If you back a truckload of money up to someone's house, I think it can change a person's mind.
Yeah.
So that's my perfect pick. I really want it to happen. Who knows? Let's get into more. Thank you. Someone in our live chat says hi from Argentina.
Cool.
Pero Diaz, I think I said your name right. And then Cedric House in our live chat says, seems like DC takes a decent step and then I take 5 steps back. Yeah. I think that's about it. That's the summer. Like, I really thought Wonder Woman was it. I thought we're in the, we're getting to the good.
Enough of that wishful thinking.
So let's talk about something that is, I don't know how to
Let's just talk about it.
It's concerning DC. This is a very rumor. Some people have said it could be true. Some people have said who knows. But we're going to talk about because that's
how rumors go.
Yeah, but this one more than usually you'll get like a rumor and then you'll have like other sites be like, oh, I've seen this too. Where some sites have been like, we don't know. Today it came out from Screen Rant, who has broken some good scoops in the past. That Warner Brothers is working on a Joker V Harley Quinn spinoff movie. Dylan, I'm going to start with you, and I want to hear your thoughts because I've been working. We've not talked about any of these news stories at all. So, how do you feel about a Joker v Harley Quinn movie if this does happen in a couple of years or so?
Well, I don't really like the current Joker a whole lot.
Why don't we get these stories about him leaving? It'd be so much better.
to be fair, he didn't get the movie that he filmed, and he had a vision with the Joker that they didn't put on screen. So, maybe he's actually a great Joker, and the studio fucked it up. So, in that sense, bring it on, I guess. Harley Quinn, she's great. Margot Robbie is, I'm sure she'll be around for a while.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think I saw you post on Twitter or Facebook or something that, the Sirens movie, what is it called again?
Gotham City Sirens.
Yeah, Gotham City Sirens.
That's a mouthful, yeah.
Yeah, Gotham City Sirens. That's coming out next year.
We're going to make a gif of that.
That's coming out next year, isn't it?
I'll say no. That was the plan, but it's coming out, I'd say, the next 3 years. That's the plan.
Okay, that kind of changes.
Batman was supposed to be coming out in the summer here, so
yeah.
Flash. So that's why I'd say next 3 years is the plan for that.
Well, I feel like since DC just loves to jam 100 fucking characters in one movie, I'm curious.
I like to make buffet movies, the smorgasbord. Just you like this character, you like this character.
You like that kind of guy? You like crocodiles? I got a great guy for you. What was I saying? So,
you're talking about Sirens, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. Okay, so if they do a Harley versus Joker movie, I'm curious what that really means. Is that a storyline in a movie that, another movie, or is that the whole movie and it's just those characters and maybe you get 5 minutes worth of other superheroes in the world? I don't know. I feel like that would be their first. I guess Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman seems so different from the other movies, but
it does. Yeah,
so many mashups.
I feel it's so not convoluted, and it's just I feel like I can remember.
It's a very simple story.
Yeah, you can remember it from start to finish. Okay, that was a movie.
But I guess in the modern age, because that was back 100 years ago. Or whatever,
it's a lot more confusing.
In the modern age, all of these movies for some reason have to have 12 different characters that you're supposed to care for.
Yeah. So
I'm curious, if they do that and they focus on just those two characters. Yes, I don't really like the Joker right now, but if they give me a movie with 50% her, 50% him, and they really build up those characters and give them some backstory and make me care for them, then, maybe they could make a good movie. I don't think it's likely, but I feel like if they give those characters the time they deserve, I guess Harley already got quite a bit of time in Suicide Squad, but Joker really didn't, and maybe it's just because he wasn't good enough, and maybe he won't be good enough, but who knows, maybe he'll grow into the character and become actually really good. So yeah, I think a movie that just focuses on them, has potential.
Yeah,
I'll say that. I'm not hopeful for it, but I'll say it has potential.
I'm the person that if you've listened to before, anytime a comic book show or movie gets announced, I'll be people be too many, or I'm not interested in them. I'm I'll be there day one, I'll see it day one. I'll still see this day one. You just spoke
really fast.
I did. I'll see this day one, of course, if this is a real thing. This is a movie that I can't even really get excited for because I have many problems with it. One, I'm not a big fan of Jared Leto's Joker. You can go back to Suicide Squad review. I'm not going to get into it. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I just think
many casts, not just the review, but
that's
all
like,
sorts of casts.
That's the entree. Like I think it's like a top 10 worst comic book movie performance. I'm sorry, but it is. But putting that aside, so let's just say Hunka. They'll be back next week, I hear, apparently. I can't wait to hear what they have to say.
They don't really talk to us.
No.
They kind of
and he's my brother, too.
It's
kind of strange. But, like, I can't wait to hear what they have to say about this whole DC news. But, so let me just throw out my dislike for Jared Leto's Joker. Because, like Dylan says, maybe, a whole movie, flesh him out, and maybe we'll see a performance we like. My first thing is, one, I get it. She's very, very popular. If these movies do happen, Suicide Squad 2, which is kind of says she would be in it, a Gotham City Sirens movie in this, I feel like it's too much of Harley Quinn. And it's not like someone's I know in the comments going to be like, oh, but Robert Downey Jr. It's like, watch Homecoming, he's used very sparingly. And all these movies Harley Quinn's rumored for, I don't think she's going to be used sparingly. Like, it's all like, this movie that the fucking working title is Harley versus the Joker. I don't think she's just like, oh yeah, she's just cameoing in there. So, there's that. I think that'd be way too many movies. 2, I'm with you as far as seeing them in a movie together. I don't know if I want a versus movie. I'd want it as...
That last one didn't turn out so well.
Yeah, true. I would take it as like a kind of crazy road trip movie of them in love. Maybe they have some problems. Like something like a Deadpool or a Logan that's smaller. It doesn't have to be about them defending the world. Like, I would watch a fucking movie them heist if I'd say Harley really wants this expensive necklace. And you know what? Joker's gonna get it for her birthday. And it's just what ensues on the way. You could have a Batman and a Batgirl chasing them down. I don't want a Joker and Harley versus movie. And my third point is, one of my hugest problems with Suicide Squad was, there was tension that they cut out of that movie. In that movie, and I know they could add to, but in this movie, they're just really in love, and that was my biggest problem, that their story in the past, he's an abusive prick, that was not in Suicide Squad, and I think that hurt it, and that's why, to me, if you're going to do this versus movie, it would have made sense if he was a jerk to her and it's like, finally, she's going to break off, and it's about them versing each other. But even then, like you said that, like, what is this movie about? Like, what are they versing?
Well,
like, what
DC doesn't really have foresight in that sense. Like, that would have been a great setup.
Yeah.
But they just think one movie at a time, whereas, some other companies, I'm not going to name any, but they think, many years in the future.
Well, and to me, like, this versus aspect, if you really want to have a Joker going at it with Harley Quinn, I feel like he could be the villain in a Sirens movie easily.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, she left him, she has friends, fuck her, like, nobody but me, right? Like, she shouldn't be with these people, she should be with me. Suicide Squad, he should have been the villain in the first one, so the second one makes sense. So for me, like, I feel like that could be a good plot point in a movie, for them to have a whole movie of just those two fighting. I think together could be fun, but them fighting, I think it would do great money-wise, because those two are iconic characters. But
of course.
Like, I'd have to have somebody, like, we'll talk about in a little bit just again, like the Doctor Doom thing, where it's like, oh, this person has such a good resume, this makes me interested. It would have to be someone, not Nolan, but somewhere where you say that, you're like, okay, I'm interested in a Joker v Harley movie, but this just feels like, again, it feels like a couple months ago when they just were randomly announcing, like, movies that were just gonna happen, or they want to happen. And for a while, like I said, the past few months, it felt like they were taking a turn of like, okay, Wonder Woman happened, they're doing Justice League, Aquaman, they said like, hey, we're gonna wait till Justice League to see where we're going next, but this doesn't feel like they're waiting. This feels like it's like, we had some success, everyone loves us, let's get out there.
It almost feels like, if Sirens is kind of being pushed back, or maybe they just don't know what they want to do with it yet, and I don't know what else, I guess, DC is working on right now, but it almost seems like, oh, we don't have anything ready for, like, next year or 2 years out. Let's make this movie because we can. We already have these characters. But
we're trying to still sign
I feel like if this movie were to be great, I'm thinking that you might want, some more build-up for it. Like, maybe, because they kind of have some scenes together and some moments and some backstory in Suicide Squad. Mm-hmm. But if that's like an underlying storyline of multiple movies, and you build that up over time, and then it kind of, that's like the conclusion of it. Like maybe one of them actually dies in this movie, rather than, I'm picturing it right now, they team up and now they're best friends at the end of the movie.
And they love each
other. The classic BVS, how they team up. But if you built this up over a few movies, three or four movies, something like that, and then you had that movie and one of them dies, like that could be a really emotional movie. It could be something that comic movies aren't really doing a lot. Like
other than Logan,
big characters don't really die that often.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd say I almost who, but Guardians 2 did that. I liked it for that too, because they were kind of ballsy, but most of the time they kind of make it out. Well, and you even said though, like, oh, they should have these movies to build up. You just kind of exactly explained what Batman v Superman was, though, right? That could have had a lot more movies before. Like, look at Civil War. To me, that's your Iron Man versus Cap movie. That's Phase 3. There's like 10 or 11 movies in front of it where BVS just had Man of Steel, which was like a very
and it was
down
like
the middle
3 years
movie.
before or something.
Yeah, so there wasn't like not much background on Batman. So yeah, that's a good point. You have anything more to say on Joker v Harley? I hope it's one of these rumors that just came out. It's like, no, this is not a plan. Like, my worry is tomorrow. Like, this is my worry that all these rumors are coming out right now in the sense of it's very much like video games in E3. We hear a rumor, and then when we see that Xbox panel, it's like, oh, they announced all the stuff we heard, and that's my worry. Like, we're hearing this the night before the DC panel is tomorrow, and that's where I'm like, oof, like, are they gonna come out and be like, look at this graphic, the Joker v Harley?
Someone snuck a USB in there and stole their PowerPoint.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. I have to say, like we were talking about the softcast, but I imagine that Hollywood Reporter had this info for a little bit because I think it's pretty timely for them to put out this report the night before because Ben Affleck's supposed to be on the panel tomorrow too.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I imagine it's gonna be like Hansel and D23 where they don't even talk about this. I don't think because they do Q&As. I think there's a chance they don't, or they'll screen that question and Ben will just be like, "I'm very happy with Batman right now," and they'll just move along. Like I don't think it'll be talked about at all. That's where they announce it. No, he's not coming back. We actually were reshooting Justice League again. From
the start. We're gonna recast everyone.
Everyone, even Wonder Woman. We know you like her, but this is for the best.
We're gonna rent out Marvel. They're gonna make it for us.
Disney. We talked about this quickly yesterday. I just wanted to get, and there's a bit more on it, but I want to get a little bit more thoughts on yesterday. Doctor Doom. There's a solo film, and we talked a little bit about it. I wanted to ask the first question for you, because Tyler was asked these questions and we talked about a bit. How do you see this movie working? Do you see this as like he's a big bad villain the whole way through? Is it kind of like an anti-hero sort of thing? Or is this... No, answer those first. I'll hit you the other one after. Like, how do you feel...
Is this on Fox? This is on Fox's side of it, right?
So same people that made Logan Deadpool, and the same people that made Fantastic and Fantastic Four. I say that on purpose because the reason I say it is because in the poster they put the 4 with the A, so that's why everyone calls it Fantastic. Yeah. Because Emily thought I was misspeaking the other night, and I think you did too when I sat in the car and you and Taylor both laughed at me. That's how people. That's how
you do that a lot. Where you fuck up words.
Yeah.
Well, I think the first thing I think of is that they could use this movie to introduce or reintroduce like the Fantastic Four.
That was my next question. You beat me to the punch. Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think that'll happen? What's your percentage out of 100? Well, 0 to 100.
I don't think there's a good chance that the Fantastic Four that we got, like, I feel like that was it, right?
That's gone, yeah.
Yeah, is that officially... It's not really officially, like, not making...
Well, there was a sequel, and it's not on the calendar anymore, so I think it's as official as it gets. Yeah. And Michael B. Jordan's at Marvel now, and Black Panther, so I think it's like, yeah, we're cutting our losses on this one.
I think this could be a great opportunity to, you know what, just, let's forget that we made another Fantastic Four. It's unfortunate, it sucked, and, forget about it. You use this movie, maybe introduce, like, not the whole squad. I don't want them to fight the entirety of Fantastic Four, but that would be an interesting perspective from, like, the bad guy's point of view. But yeah, maybe you introduce 1 or 2 of the characters, or even just, like, rumblings of the characters in the world, that they still exist, that they're doing stuff. I'm curious, like, what like, the storyline of this would be, because Suicide Squad is different because you have a whole bunch of people, and then...
Victor Von Doom's a billionaire. He works on his own. There's not going to be like, oh, we're holding this over you. Like, you don't have much experience with him, but like, the reason I love this game, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, like those cutscenes when they show like how, like his plans, how powerful he is, like, they really do a good job. Like, he's very much like that. Like, there's one version of the comics where, and he's very Magneto-ish, where one moment he saw a vision of the world 50 years from now. And it was him ruling it, and someone told him, if you don't rule the world's gonna be destroyed. And that's where you think about the complex of that guy then coming back and being like, oh, well, like, he's kind of a villain, right? And others feel like you're trying to take over the world, and it's kind of left up, like, was someone fucking with him, or was this a real vision that he actually saw? But he's never the, hey, I'm going to destroy the world. He's a person that wants to rule it, and maybe it's, sometimes he's more evil than usual, but he's never going to be that guy who's, like, locked in a jail cell, like, oh, Victor, we have your wife, like, you gotta... He's not Magneto, where you can kind of play with his emotions. Like, look at Apocalypse, right? Like, he makes that choice, I'm sticking with my family. He's not that guy. He's a really, like, lone wolf type of individual.
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to have a whole lot of depth on this, just because the only thing I know about Doctor Doom is, unfortunately, from Fantastic Four. So, like, I've obviously heard of him, and, you know, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, he's in there, so I know what he looks like, I know kind of what his powers are, but I don't really know who his rivals are, and obviously Fantastic Four is his rival, but I don't know if there's, like, any other, like, one-offs, like,
Iron Man's
one versus
a huge one.
Iron Man?
Yeah.
Well, obviously they're not going to do that, but...
No.
But there's got to be something in the comic books, like, even if they pull, like, a smaller storyline, there's got to be some, like, really epic matchup that could happen.
Yeah.
And they don't have to call it Doctor Doom versus, you know, Butterfly Man or something. You don't have to put that right in the title.
Yeah, like, to me, he is... the best way I can describe him is he's kind of the anti-Iron Man. Like, he's the evil version of Iron Man. Like, he's a guy where there's some prophecy where... I can't remember the exact prophecy. Long story short, he had to kill his, like, high school long-love sweetheart in order for it to, like, fulfill his prophecy. Yeah. He needed,
high
like...
school long love.
He needed the blood of, like, someone that truly loved him, and he was apologetic about it, but he's like, I have to kill you and take your blood. And he did it. And that's the type of guy where he's like, you know, for him, in his mind, the greater good, he'll do it. And I think that is a great villain, and I think... People throw us all the time of like, oh, well, there's solo comics. Comics are very different. They're 22 pages, most of them. They're not going to be a 2-hour-long movie. You can have a art from beginning to end, and you don't have to have huge set pieces or this and that. The two things that I do gotta show, we talked about in the car cast. The guy that does it is Noah Hawley, and the reason I throw that is because it is funny that you have this guy who's done Fargo, the TV adaptation of it, and it's really good. I've only seen a few episodes, but everyone loves that show. And Legion, which is... an X-Men show, so it has a perspective of, like, comic books and whatnot. Like, it's about Xavier's son, and he is an individual that, he is more heroic, but he's not, like, I'm going out there to do good. Like, he has questionable moments. He's, like, he's in a Dexter sort of way. Not as bad, but he's not, like, out there with a cape. Like, he doesn't know his own power sometimes. So, he has that experience, and he has a great resume, but then if you look at the Fantastic Four movies, most of them are all bad to awful, and it's this thing of, something's got to give. Either he's going to have the first really bad thing on his resume, or this is going to be a great Fantastic Four property. And I think it will be. I think which you should watch Legion before the year ends, when we get to our end year. It's only 8 episodes, and it's fantastic. I think he can handle that character well. I'm the same as you. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it. If this is the MCU, I'd feel more confident because they have the rights to everything. But when it's just that pocket, I don't know. And my other thing is this going to be used as a Fantastic Four setup? Or are they going to do a Logan approach where this is a movie that's off on its own? Yes, like, Logan isn't the universe, but it's like, you don't have cameos from other X-Men. Like, you don't have Cyclops. Like, you do, but it's very contained. It's not like Deadpool where he's going to the X-Men, she's bumping into Colossus. Like, you have Xavier and other characters, but it's not like... You could never see Logan, and it's not going to affect the other movies. Same as Deadpool, right? And I wonder if that's will be the same, because there's terrible rumors that they're going to make a Fantastic Four movie about their kids, apparently. There's rumors that they want to do a young... Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Yeah, I think they want to make a young adult movie. I do not think that's the way to go with Fantastic Four, and I get the sense that they may do it as, like, its own kind of thing. And I don't even know if Fantastic Four will be... Maybe they'll leave a door open... Like, the original Iron Man had, like, it was completely its own movie, and then the end credit scene was Nick Fury coming in and being like, oh, the Avengers, you know? I think it could be something like that. But the actual movie, I think, will have nothing to do with... It'll have maybe hints, like a newspaper, but I don't think it'll be like, oh, and then he has to fight the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I hope not.
Yeah, and another thing I gotta shout out, I really hope it happens. We don't know what, but apparently Dan Stevens is somewhat involved. He's the guy who is in Legion, the main guy. You saw him in Criminal Activities a few weeks ago. Really. He played the Beast, but he is a phenomenal actor. They just said he is involved. They don't know how much. If they cast him as Victor, it's perfect. He has to get a little weird accent because Victor has this like accent. Well, he didn't have to actually. You know what? You don't need the accent. He's a great actor, and if this happens, it's going to be my most excitable movie after Infinity War because he's the man. Once you watch Legion, you'll be on board. It's like when you watch Hannibal and you saw Madge, like, oof, this guy, he's got talent. Yeah. Inhumans, second trailer, came out at Comic-Con. What do you think? Because you and I and the whole crew were not really a big fan of the first trailer.
Mm-hmm.
It's first two episodes, IMAX, coming to ABC, so it's not Marvel, Netflix.
Yeah.
So.
I actually liked this trailer quite a bit more than the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if, and this is a slight spoiler, I don't know if my opinion is biased by the fact that we watched another trailer that was complete garbage in comparison to this one. And we'll talk about that one after, I'm sure. But yeah, I thought this trailer, it got me a little bit more interested in it. It seemed a little more lively. Like, I remember the first trailer just seemed so bland, kind of dull. This one had a little bit more life to it, a little bit of heart. That main character, I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who's in Misfits and whatnot. Like I'm kind of interested in that character. It seems like a different perspective if he's like a regular human in a world with a bunch of super people.
It's just Syndrome.
It's just Syndrome. It kind of, he needs a zero gravity anti-gravity device.
Which I say that I love Marvel Comics, but it's just I'd have to look who came first. Maximus might have came first, but I think it's that kind of complex. So I think that's good.
And I don't know, there just seems to be some interesting characters in there. It's one of those things, I don't know if I'll get around to watch it just because it's not on Netflix, and like I probably could find it, but it might just be a hassle. Mm-hmm. If I hear it's really good, I'll check it out. But yeah, I think, this trailer, it was better than the first one. Yeah. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, I'll say that too. Surprisingly, I think I liked the beginning of the trailer more when it was just people running through the forest or the moon, where it is. Inhumans, I'm not the greatest knowledge on, so you'll have to, if you're looking for Inhumans deep knowledge, Travis Snell's not your guy. I was never a huge fan.
You can only do so much in one day.
You can only
If there was like 3 more hours in each day, damn, we'd be experts on a lot more things.
I've always said, if a genie, like, one of the wishes I would say would be able to stop time. Not go forward or, like, time travel, just to be like, hey, I need an extra 5 hours to get this done and stop it. So you don't miss anything, right? So it's like, you don't want to see people grow up without you. But, like, so, back to the actual point. I liked the beginning of the trailer. I liked showing all the different Inhumans. And it had a bit more of a sci-fi action feel. And in a better way, not so B-rate like the first trailer was. This felt a bit more lively. Mm-hmm. Love they keep showing Lockjaw. Love it. Lockjaw's going to steal this. I'm mad he's in a TV show. Like, he needs to be in a movie. But, like, he's great. My only thing was, when they're in the actual moon base and they're talking about, like, their kingdom and how Maximus is going to try and take it over, like, he's the bad guy, it feels very empty. Like, it feels very small, and it's not as bad as another trailer we're going to talk about, but it's always a thing on the TV show. That's why you look at Marvel Netflix show, they work, because for the most part, they are very, very small situations, and there's an example of Iron Fist for me of, like, he fights a dragon. We don't get to see that, and that's why that kind of hurts the show, right? Because, like, it's this huge thing, but he can't really show it. And even Lockjaw, who I think I love, and he looks good enough, he's very CG heavy, and just even the sets look very, very empty at times. Like, it's just like him, Maximus, and then there's like 6 guards behind them with the guns, and it's just like, this is supposed to be like a massive kingdom. Like, they live on the fucking moon, and for me, it really feels like we shot this in the back lot, and lots of TV shows do, and that's fine, but it feels very small, Yeah. And I will say, I like this trailer better than the second one. I will personally give it a few episodes watch, just to see. We don't have an IMAX theater, so we're probably not going to get the theater experience, but I'll give it a chance. I always do, but I don't have that many high hopes for it. So, Gifted.
Oh, God.
Fox's new X-Men show. This is not like Legion. It's not connected to Legion, which, don't let this sour you. Watch Legion. This is not like Legion. Dylan, you want to start about Gifted?
Honestly, like, we watched the trailer like 40 minutes ago, and it's already kind of zipped past my brain. I remember parts of it. I think Blink is a really cool character. And so the fact that she exists in this show, that's cool. Other than that, the 2 main characters, like the kids, they look incredibly boring. The show, like you were just talking about, like the budget of Inhumans, but the budget of this show is like less than our budget. And
listen, our budget, wow.
Yeah, and
like when she's doing like the magic and whatnot, or like, oh, it's not magical powers. It
doesn't look great. Like Polaris, she was doing like some weird hand thing, and it just looked awful.
Yeah.
And then the story too was just like so generic. Like, it sounded like 100 other trailers I've seen before. I am not excited for the show whatsoever, and I will likely never watch it.
Yeah, I won't either, and that's saying a lot for me because for Marvel, X-Men is my favorite property. I love all those characters. I love the idea. It's always been a good thing about, you can see the clear symbolism of, race and discrimination in those. And they do play with that a bit. It just looks so cheesy. And it looks so... Same thing as Inhumans. It looks so B-rate. It looks like, to me, a show that's going to be on for about one season. And then it gets canceled. And it'll be like, hey, remember a couple of years ago when they had that Gifted show, and then most people's response will be like, no, I don't. Yeah, like a show based on X-Men, and they drop X-Men and Brotherhood, but I think this is when there's sometimes where the not following continuity for Fox works. I think something like a Logan and a Deadpool, which they could be brought in, but they kind of just go, these are our sole things, we're just doing these, they have loose connections. I think something like this can kind of get hurt by it because it doesn't look that good. If it was maybe connected to a movie, or even they said today that's not going to be connected to Legion, even if it was something like that, you'd be like, oh, okay. Because of its own thing, I really feel like I can skip past it and be like, well, I don't need... It's its own thing. Yeah, it's its own thing. I don't really need to watch this. The acting does not look good. The trailer was not good. And the trailer was 3 minutes, but it felt like about half an hour.
Yeah, and really the thing is, trailers, that's where, you put a lot of good stuff in there. You put some cool action scenes... or anything that looks interesting. So if that's what they got for a 3-minute trailer, then I don't even want to know what one episode is like, let alone a full season. Yeah, and there's a good, I don't know, the hook's alright of clearly it's the dad he's this person rounding up the mutants and his kids are mutants, and I thought the Smuckers. What are they called again?
Struckers. Yeah. And they set up of this is when the mutant moment happens, and they show the kid getting bullied. There's stuff that if this was this is I guess the problem. If this was a 2-hour movie, and they say, hey, we're making this movie about mutants maybe being on the run, I could kind of see that working, even though it's kind of similar to Logan. But a series of this, I think we'll get tired really quick, and even just how it ends when she's like, some people consider this a curse or whatever. Yeah. But you could also consider these as gifts, and then it's gifted this fall, and it's just oof, it feels like...
That's the generic, that's what I mean, I feel like that kind of line has just been done so many times.
Yeah, I feel that it's 2005-ish.
Oh, yeah. It definitely felt old. It feels like this has been in the back burner, in the vaults. The janitor was down there, cleaning out the storage room, and he's like, hey, look at this show I found on there. Mm-hmm. And then they bring it out. It's this doesn't work in 2017, but we might as well pump it out there.
So, I have some Defenders news here. I don't know if they're actually going to release any footage for us, to be honest, because there's 15 minutes left, and there's not been much, and I think I got a report that they're showing the first episode of Defenders right now to the crowd. So, kudos to you guys. That's pretty fucking sick to see the first end.
That is fucking dank.
Yeah.
I really want to be there.
That's cool. So, I do have some news. Start with this. Iron Fist 2 officially... What the fuck? Officially. Yeah, Canadian. Officially confirmed for Season 2. And it's starting production. So, obviously we kind of thought, but they had not announced that. It was one of these things that I did worry a bit because of the backlash, and it did not review well, whatever reason you think. So, officially Season 2... And it's they hinted that Misty Knight could appear in it. Because they give you a little backstory. Her and Colleen Wing are the daughters of the dragon. They have a little comic team-up group. So, how do you... I think we've talked about it a little before, but now that's confirmed, and even something with Misty, we got some crossover. Yeah. How do you feel about Iron Fist Season 2? They don't have a date officially. They confirmed all the shows that Daredevil's come back, Jessica Jones. We knew that, but Iron Fist was the one we hadn't officially got confirmation.
I mean, just looking at the 4 shows individually... Daredevil, I feel has the most possibility for alternate storylines and places to go, and there's a whole world built up within that show itself, and so that already has a Season 2. Mm-hmm. It's going to get a Season 3 eventually. Punisher from that show is already getting his own show. Yeah. And then when I think about Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, those seem a lot more contained than Iron Fist and Daredevil, just in that their season exists, and obviously there's like underlying stuff, you know, tying into the Defenders, setting up for the Defenders, but those shows, the story that was like being told of those characters, it's almost like, you know, nice package, button it up and you're good to go, and it works on its own. So in that sense, I think Iron Fist, you know, other than Daredevil, is a good option for a season 2.
I think Luke Cage, they did give enough though, because remember, spoilers for Luke Cage, if you haven't seen now, you probably didn't plan on it. He does end up being framed to go to prison, and there's a couple people still around that he has to kind of like collect in a way, right? Like he has to, you know, kind of get a little payback on.
Maybe I'm a bit biased because I just generally like the atmosphere of Iron Fist, even if the show is messy in moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I just said, Iron Fist, we did a whole review on it. So if you want to know what we think about it, you can listen to that. But
we were in the minority.
I really like there's some stuff I really like about that show, and the storyline with like the Meachums, like that whole family. I actually really like that stuff. It kind of caught me off guard. So, we'll get more of that. Whereas we're not going to get that in Defenders. We're not going to get that in a Luke Cage when Iron Fist pops up. The Meachums aren't going to show up. So I like that, and I mean, I wonder if it will. Did they have any information of like who's doing it?
No, they haven't yet, and that's my thing.
That's a big question mark because
even though I liked Iron Fist, I don't really want them to come back. I didn't like the last few seasons of Dexter. He's doing Inhumans as well. I kind of hope because Daredevil switched showrunners. They didn't need to because they were good. It just that happens in Hollywood. I'm kind of hoping they said start production, but that can just mean writing, scouting locations. That doesn't mean like they're filming tomorrow. So they're just getting into it. Like it's confirmed now. So I do hope that we get a switch because I don't think with these showrunners, I don't know if it's gonna get any better to be honest. Like, and I think Iron Fist enough.
If you take, it's while that season or that show in general was kind of messy, it set up the foundation for a lot of potentially good stuff. And so if you get some people who can execute it better, and I'm blanking on the actor's name for Danny Rand.
Finn Jones.
Finn Jones. Obviously acting wise, I thought he was a little inconsistent, but as he grows into the character, now he's been in Defenders, maybe his performance becomes a lot stronger. So if you combine those two things, and I think the big thing for me is if there's new people doing the choreography for the fight. Wow, I fucking butchered that sentence, but the choreography for the fighting scenes, then that would be a big thing because that was a major disappointment for
and
that
much
show.
more prep time for him.
Yeah,
too.
so I think if you get new people, and I don't know who would be a good pick. But I feel like there's a lot of good foundations for a really amazing show settled within, the nooks and cracks of Iron Fist Season 1.
Well, they did say, Finn Jones said on the panel, because I'm seeing some quotes, that he said the character, or Danny Rand will be very different in Defenders. So I've always compared it to the way I felt about Cap when I felt like in the first Avengers no one really gave a fuck about him and now everyone loves Cap. I don't know if everyone's gonna ever love Iron Fist because like the controversy of the casting that I don't know why, but like I think this helps because I do agree I thought he did a good enough job, but the character was a little inconsistent, so I like that. I like Misty appearing. They have comic book ties, cool. And I really like Misty, and I think that'll be a good little team up. Anytime you have new characters coming around, I think is good. I'm looking through stuff. They did say at the end of Defenders, which who knows what this means. I'm trying to rack brain. They said there'll be a surprise.
Punisher.
Well, no,
I guess that's not a surprise anymore.
No, I mean, like, I think the end tag of it's going to be a surprise.
Oh, well, they're obviously going to set up for the next show.
Well, what do... I'm trying to think, because I have three things going in my head.
Okay, start with number 2.
Okay, number 2. Number 2 was, it's a setup for a new show. So, and not like, so number 1 was, set up for what Defenders is happening down the line. Like what Defenders Season 2 is. That's 1. Number 2 is, there's many characters that have been talked about, like Ghost Rider, I can pass. Blade, which I think would be really great on Netflix. My biggest one, which I got a lot of love with Kirkland, Moon Knight. We love Moon Knight.
Moon Knight's badass.
Yeah, you could get into so much. You should read the current comic book run right now. It is just like Batman on LSD. Like, he's a guy that's schizophrenic, doesn't sometimes even know he's a superhero. Like, very cool character. He's in that, like, he's in New York, that little pocket. So I think it could be that, or I think it won't be this, because this would be too small, because they said a surprise, but maybe something like Kingpin appearing at the end, or a villain, but I think Kingpin's the only villain that could come back and, to confirm that. I think he will be a main thing in Daredevil Season 2, or Season 3, but you never know, because in Season 2 he was just in 2 episodes, right? They are great, but like, if that was some confirmation, if he was the villain, even in my mind, I could see him being the main villain of Defenders Season 2, like him having all his...
Yeah, I could see more build-up for that.
Yeah, like, he's a person you could easily build up to be much more powerful, and he could intersect, like, that could even be it. Maybe it's not confirming him, like, in Daredevil. if they were confirmed as to be like the Thanos of the shows, where maybe Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin appears in Luke Cage and he appears in Jessica Jones, you know, and I would like that because it's like, oh, this big build of like, okay, we really got to take him down.
And that fits the character too, because Kingpin, it seems like he always has his fat fingers in everything, right?
Yeah.
He's a little bit everywhere. He's under the radar, so yeah, whether or not he comes back as like the main villain again in Daredevil season 3, or like you said, just, you know, shows up a little bit in each of the other storylines, even if it's just like a minor mention, like if the actor isn't even on set, if it's just like mentions of Kingpin, or not even, they don't even have to say Kingpin obviously, but just say
well, he's Kingpin now though, remember? Cause
I know, but that's what I'm saying, like there could just be like rumblings of, you know, someone who, you know, is gathering a bunch of bad guys and doing weapons shipments and fucking people up and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy DC, you know, had maybe a messy day, because I don't think we're gonna know. They showed a Punisher teaser, but it's not a line yet. I'm really surprised, because that is, well, they showed footage from Punisher and people are saying it's very good, but I'm very surprised that show's supposed to come out in October, November-ish. Hopefully it does maybe come out even tonight, and we'll talk about it tomorrow, because we still got a whole day tomorrow. So,
a bunch of stuff.
But the last thing I completely forgot about to talk about, I know you won't have too much to add on this, but it was confirmed that they're doing a Spawn movie. Do you have any knowledge of Spawn?
I have never heard of Spawn, but I looked it up. I looked it up and saw that like the guy who announced it is the writer of the original, so that's cool. And that's all I have to go off. But the movie cover is fucking sick.
Yeah.
So that's all. That's my depth of knowledge of Spawn.
Yeah.
But cool.
Which, speaking of like Doctor Doom,
is it like a cult classic?
No,
is it like or like not a classic. Is that like a cult following kind of thing?
It's on. I can't remember. Oh fuck! I'm gonna lose all my comic book cred here. What is the? I think he's Image. Yeah, he's okay. Yeah, he's Image. So Image Comics is like, there's Image and Dark Horse, which are like the kind of indie ones. So it's like Marvel, DC.
Dark Horse,
yeah, Image and Dark Horse are the next, and he's a guy, Todd McFarlane, that started this, and he's
started
Image Comics, and he started a lot of them, and Spawn he created. And they did a movie way back.
You could say he spawned him.
Hey. They did a movie.
Where's Taylor for my laugh track?
Pretty much, yeah. They did a movie in the 90s, which was, it's alright. People shit on it a lot. It's actually kind of fun, but it's pretty, you can tell it's pretty 90s, like, bad. But, like, there's some good stuff to it. I'd love to watch it. It's actually kind of fun, but
watch it.
It's kind of like a supernatural sort of Batman. And what happens is this guy's like a CIA agent.
I did see like the summary of the storyline.
Yeah, and that's what happens. Like, he's done some bad things in the past. He dies. He goes to hell. He really wants to see his wife again. And, like, devil goes, oh, well, it's not the devil, but it's some name of the devil. Like, and I've read comics of his, but I'm not, like, so deep in the knowledge. My knowledge comes from HBO did a 2 or 3 season animated show way in the 90s that's really well done. It's hard rated R. They adapted a lot of the comic books, so maybe I do know more than I think, but I've not read as much as I would like. For me, it was always as a kid that his look is phenomenal. Like, that look is
very cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And the biggest thing, I'll pull up what they've done right now. The biggest thing is, so to give you a little backstory and other people, and I'm a Spawn fan, I wanted to see more. This film, after that one came out, I think it was PG-13. That was the other thing too that he was a little disappointed in, and he was not involved as far as like writing or directing anything like that. So the biggest thing is this movie's been talked about maybe 10 years. He's been talking about he's been talking about like working with this studio, and it's one of these movies that I even joked because he's in our theater in the before the movie thing when they show like people like talking about like whatever, he's in the Spider-Man reel and he's talking about like why Spider-Man is such an important character. And I just laughed when I saw him because I respect him a lot, but it's just, I think he said something about Spawn in the movie, and it's just, he's been saying, it's kind of like The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and he's been past 10 years being like, oh, I'm working on a hard radar. At one point he's like, I'd love to get like Leo to do it, like Leo, and it was like, okay buddy, like it was always this kind of like, this has never happened. I think it's definitely happening now because they announced a partnership with Blumhouse, and the guy that runs Blumhouse like put out a statement saying, I'm really excited. He's never directed a movie before, so that would make me a little worried, but the guy who runs it says, I'm really confident, I think he'll be a great director. And I want to run down because they're this great little studio who's been getting bigger and bigger. They started with very small stuff at the beginning. They started with Paranormal Activity. They started with like Dark Skies and Lords of Salem. All these like kind of smaller horror movies that are alright, and then they started putting out stuff like the first Insidious. They put out Sinister. They put out The Purge. They put out Split this year, and they put out Whiplash. They put out, I already said The Purge. Put out Oculus, which I'll show up for Kirkland and Jessica because they love that movie. Unfriended, which is actually a really good movie. It's surprisingly good. It's a movie that's I think it's the one. It's primarily people Skyping. I'm not sure if you've seen the trailers. Yeah, I think it is.
I've heard of it, but
the whole movie is just 5 cameras of them Skyping, and there's like a ghost coming down. You see through Skype. You think it sounds bad, but there's a lot of tension. Like the ghost starts messaging them, like who's messing around the chat. It's really cool.
Cool.
Yeah, they did split on. What was the other thing? I know you're not like in love with it as much as everybody else, but they did Get Out, which is like a lot of bragging rights for them to, and that's a movie
Massive movie.
Look at this, $4.5 budget, $4.5 million for their budget, $250 million that they made.
Ooh.
So they're
there's profit margin right there.
Yeah, if he would have announced, hey, even then, like officially we're starting production on this, I would have been like, okay, your track record as a director, it's not there, but because the studio, and of course they have some movies that maybe didn't hit, but like right now they have a really good track record for just movies like that, like Sinister, Split, I really like, Get Out, like they have a really good track record. So I think, and especially right now with rated R comic movies kind of becoming like a hot thing, I think this has big potential.
Yeah, well that's cool because while Spawn is obviously a character disconnected from the other, superhero comic world, like doing a comic book movie but also a horror movie could be really cool.
Yeah. Well, this has lots of supernatural elements, and you look at their resume, like they go in that horror vibe, and I think
they've been around the block.
Yeah, I think that's a smart thing. And Spawn, I've always wanted, and this is actually going to be more a reason. I actually didn't go back and read comics as this movie's come along because, like I said, I've only read a few. So I got really excited when I saw Blumhouse. I was like, okay, this gets me intrigued, and I was a big. The thing is, for me, I think Split's the biggest example of how like they could make a superhero like movie because Split is like. It's a kind of a super villain movie, right? Like it's a villain. It's an origin of a super villain.
It does have supernatural components.
Yeah, well. So like that's the way I look at it. So I'm very excited for it. And especially today's day and age, the CGI for the movie was all right, and actually had some good moments. But I think in this day and age, that look, I think where we are today is going to help it a lot. Where in the 90s, sometimes look good.
Wouldn't it need to be CG heavy? I don't know if the look is too much.
I think so because like he's just entirely like black.
Doesn't he not have a face?
He's Venom. Yeah, like he would be Venom. So I think CG or mocap is what I'm hoping.
Right.
So that's what I'm hoping. And that was the other thing too. In the 90s movie, people hated that they did this is funny enough, like the Spider-Man 3 thing where his face would constantly come off and it would show like a burn version of his face, and it was like that doesn't really happen in yeah, so it's like they loved doing that in those early days, right? Of like, oh, don't cover him up. So and I guess
there's an actor under there.
Well, yeah. Next thing is, I wonder who they're going to cast for this. I hope they cast somebody that's not a big name, so it's just like, oh, they can be the voice. So
I hope it's someone off my comic book fan cast list.
Oh yeah, and then which you should check out right now because tomorrow we got a big day, and we did a comic book cast that was a superhero draft. So all of us picked 5 actors that we think that could get cast in the next year. So it's lots of fun.
Yeah, just a fun recording.
Yeah, that dropped today. So check that out. Do you have anything else to say? I'm looking through news, but I don't think we're getting no Punisher stuff at least tonight. I'm surprised.
Unfortunately.
I thought they'd drop it, but
well, maybe we'll have it for tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, there's nothing else that I saw at Comic-Con wise.
All right, you want to play the role of Taylorfield?
I always love playing the role of Taylorfield.
It's always fun.
Well, you can go check us out on Facebook, keeping it nice, short, and sweet. GeekVerse Cast on Twitter, everywhere else, GeekVerse Podcast. Really easy to find us. Check out our website. That just has links for absolutely everything. Go check out our Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
You can get all sorts of early content. What's up there right now for early content?
Lots of early Spider-Man retrospectives. Like you can get like, I think maybe...
If you like Spider-Man, Patreon's the place for you.
Yeah, you can get Spider-Man retrospective episodes that like maybe 4 months in advance. Same thing Netflix and Fail. There's like 2 up there that are a couple months in advance. So yeah, and we throw up stuff like the Comic-Con specials. We threw those up there. You could still go up there and get the Dynamic Duo one where we rank every superhero movie and comic book performances. So yeah, we got lots of good stuff. Throw some pocket change and you get some great content. Oh, yeah. July 30th, the ladder match for GeekVerse. It is a huge match. It is about an hour. It's lots of fun. You're going to want to stay tuned. You want to tune into that if you're in the video games because there's a lot of matches, a lot of surprises. So tune into that. And then tomorrow, the big day, last day of we have other casts. The last day of coverage, we have the Warner Bros. Panel in the morning. And now we found out officially, as far as time-wise, we're going to be doing it right after. So I really hope we get Justice League and Wonder Woman trailer.
I hope we get some big trailers. We
haven't
had a ton of those.
No. And then tomorrow's Marvel. And yeah, we'll do podcasts for all those. If something like Marvel doesn't drop Infinity War, they'll probably be a bit shorter, but we're banking on that.
We'll still be there.
So if they drop Infinity War, tune in with us tomorrow because, if I can see that tomorrow, it's just gonna make my day. So tomorrow the big hedge honchos, and we got Stranger Things as well. They got panels. So I think tomorrow
there's definitely gonna be trailers.
Saturday's known as like the day, and I remember last year when we did Comic-Con. Some days were all right, but Saturday was we got Justice League, Wonder Woman, Doctor Strange. So tune in tomorrow. It's not going to be boring. Please subscribe, like, and review this podcast wherever you're watching this.
Yes, thank you very much. Are you gonna?
I already said it.
Did you say your line?
Yeah. So you can say yours.
GeekVerse out!